What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live again through the power of the internet. And if you know me at all, you know I tend to focus on the negative. But here on YouTube, if you search my name, you'll tend to find a lot of negative videos. And I try not to talk about that kind of stuff because that's kind of what YouTube is. After all, it's a place where we go to complain about things. Well, much to my surprise, on Snapchat here on YouTube as well, I saw a video talking about my life in a positive fashion, and I thought that should be rewarded. So today I wanted to react to it, I want to signal boost it, and I want to share that video with you. And I think it would be fun to point out what they get right and what they get wrong in the video as well. But before we get started, let me do the YouTube thing and remind you that you have to like this video. If you don't, I will come to your house and I will drink your Mountain Dew. And while you're down there, you may as well hit subscribe so that you can see these videos in your feed, and leave a comment for the algorithm, even if you just call me fat. That's cool. That works. Call me fat. I'm fat. Now, this video is made by SVG, and it was uploaded to their YouTube channel as well as Snapchat. And the video is called The Tragic Real Life Story of Boogie2988, which is about as positive as YouTube gets these days, so I'll take it.
Stephen Williams' early life wasn't pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. He didn't have any friends, and his home life did not provide any relief. His father was an alcoholic, and he had a volatile relationship with his mother.
So right off the bat, they're pretty accurate here. Definitely my dad was an alcoholic, and my mom was definitely a crazy person. Though I did have friends growing up. They were far and few between, and they were mostly driven away by my family situation and everything that was going on there. But I did have the occasional friend, like, hi, Dustin Mabe, if you're out there. He's still friends with me on Facebook to this day. It wasn't until Upward Bound that things really changed, though.
Williams claims that, before college, he enrolled in the government program Upward Bound. Not only did it help him get ready for university life, but he also made his first true friends there. According to Williams, the people at Upward Bound thought he was cool and funny, and they shared the same interests, such as video games and Dungeons and Dragons.
So this is absolutely true. When I got to go to Dungeons and Dragons and leave my elementary and high school friends behind, I was able to reinvent myself and become a completely different person. Everyone who knew the abuse that I'd gone through, everything that knew the misery that I'd gone through, they didn't know that in Upward Bound, and I was able to just be a normal person. And here's the thing, as I did slowly share the background that I came from, almost everyone that was in Upward Bound had the exact same background. 90% of the people there grew up poor, grew up in poverty, grew up in misery, and we had some level of trauma in our past. So we were actually able to bond over that. Something that made me a pariah outside of that program made me just an average person in that program. And yeah, they thought I was funny for whatever reason. I don't know. I know I'm funny looking.
It also introduced a bunch of firsts to his life. Williams got to use his first computer at Upward Bound, and his newfound friends piqued his interest in authors like Douglas Adams and Stephen King. In particular, he discovered a fondness for King's The Dark Tower. Stephen Williams eventually decided to attend the University of Virginia at Wise. Luckily, one of the friends he made at Upward Bound also attended UVA Wise, and this friend just so happened to be a girl, one who eventually became his first girlfriend.
So slight inaccuracy here, it wasn't the first computer I ever used. I used a Commodore 64 in elementary school and owned a Commodore 64. As a teenager. So I definitely had access to computers before. It was the first time I sat down and saw like a real computer, though, like a Tandy with a Pentium in it and like with the high-end games and stuff like that. So a little inaccuracy there. The girl that joined me in college actually was my girlfriend throughout all of high school, and I did meet her in Upward Bound. And unfortunately, if you've ever heard the story that I told on live stream, kind of uncomfortably laughing because my friend died of double cancer, that was that girl. She was very much one of the loves of my life. One of my greatest friends right up until the moment she died. I don't know much what to say there, but I'm glad that she got included in this story because she was just, I don't know, that woman probably saved me. The reason I laugh when I talk about her passing is because I do enjoy gallows humor. I think we all know that about me, but also, when we were in college together and Upward Bound together, she had worked hospice and helped a lot of people who couldn't afford health care through their dying days, and a lot of those people had cancer. So she thought it was funny to walk around wishing cancer on people. I hope you get cancer. I hope you get cancer. I hope you get cancer. And then eventually, one day she died of cancer, and during our very last conversation, she made a joke about it. She said, "Can you believe I'm actually dying of double cancer? Irony's a bitch." And I was, I try to tell this story every once in a while. I chuckle when I tell it because that's what the point of her telling that joke was. I know people find that tasteless, and I understand why, but that's the story behind that if you ever wondered.
According to Williams, for reasons unknown, a schism formed between the two. Williams and his girlfriend started fighting, and while they initially assumed they were simply going through a rough patch and could work things out, that just didn't happen. Eventually, Williams and his girlfriend parted ways. His emotional state sunk and took his grades with it. Williams never graduated from UVA-wise, flunking out.
But yeah, that relationship ended with us arguing a lot, and I gotta tell you, I've always been grateful for that because it really allowed me to show a lot more patience moving forward in my other relationships. But the reason that was is because we both came from horribly tragic, horribly traumatized backgrounds. And you put two people like that together, and that's just not going to be a good experience because you're always both so defensive, so sad, so angry, so something that you're going to end up bouncing off each other like energetic trauma ping pong balls. I know it makes sense, like somebody with trauma would understand somebody else's trauma issues, but you got to be real careful because if those traumas don't perfectly line up, you're going to end up with a lot of friction.
The one bright spot of Williams' life prior to Upward Bound, his brother Brian, held the answer. According to Williams, Brian offered him the opportunity to move to Fayetteville, Arkansas, which would become his permanent home. Brian thought that this was an opportunity for his brother to reinvent himself.
So my brother let me move in with him here in Fayetteville. I showed you that house in a previous video. I'll probably link to it here, but you'll find it on the channel. And I've always been so grateful for that. You know, my brother wasn't really able to be for me there when I was stuck in the home because he left early and had his own life to live. But I'm always going to be grateful to my brother because he reached out and gave me that opportunity and allowed me to move to Fayetteville. And that's when I reinvented myself for the second and final time and became Boogie, the guy you know and hopefully love. I'd like to think that you love me. The person that you see on YouTube every day, but also the person that you see on Twitch with the edgy sense of humor as well.
So Stephen Williams took that opportunity and subsequently found his future platform, the internet. Despite his lack of a college degree, Williams studiously learned how to code for the internet at a local computer lab. He also found a steady job as a web designer.
So yeah, I did do web design. I also did do an adults-only link site linking to adult content on the internet. I even did produce some adult content back in the day, did adult blogs, things along that lines. Not something I'm particularly proud of, but not something I'm particularly ashamed of either. It was a ways to make ends meet. Hey, I was young and I needed the money. Now, they are ignoring the fact that this is the period of time where I ended up having to be homeless, couch surfing, finding places to stay because me and my brother had friction as well, and I had to move out, and I just had to find a place to stay, and eventually got my own apartment, but they left that.
Williams found a passion in Magic the Gathering at Fayetteville. But what is a card game like Magic without people to play with? Fortunately, Fayetteville had plenty of those, and Williams secured more friends than ever before.
They definitely got that right. To this day, I am still addicted to this cardboard gambling simulator as much as I ever was. But it is how I met a lot of friends at my local gaming store. Even the friend I live with, I've been friends with for 25 years. Most of the friends who I see on the weekends, most of the friends I know in this world. If I didn't know them from YouTube, I probably met them over a game of Magic.
All good things must come to an end, and after a few lucky breaks with work and friends, the world came crashing down for Stephen Williams. He entered a depression so deep that he refused to leave the house for 7 years.
So that's pretty accurate. I mean, absolutely, for 7 years, I was depressed. I was anxious. I put on a ton of weight. I didn't want to leave the house. I barely ever did. I was pretty much a shut-in. I was working from home. But you could also just call that depression EverQuest and then later World of Warcraft because that's what I was doing. I was playing those games 10, 20 hours a day. I wasn't sleeping. It's all I did. I played those games. I ordered food in. Occasionally I would drive to McDonald's. Very rarely I would go have lunch with my friends. Very rarely I would go out and play Magic. Yeah, it was, you could blame World of Warcraft for about 100 pounds at my biggest.
All good things must come to an end, and after a few lucky breaks with work and friends, the world came crashing down for Stephen Williams. He entered a depression so deep that he refused to leave the house for 7 years.
So that's pretty accurate. I mean, absolutely, for 7 years, I was depressed. I was anxious. I put on a ton of weight. I didn't want to leave the house. I barely ever did. I was pretty much a shut-in. I was working from home. But you could also just call that depression EverQuest and then later World of Warcraft because that's what I was doing. I was playing those games 10, 20 hours a day. I wasn't sleeping. It's all I did. I played those games. I ordered food in. Occasionally I would drive to McDonald's. Very rarely I would go have lunch with my friends. Very rarely I would go out and play Magic. Yeah, it was, you could blame World of Warcraft for about 100 pounds at my biggest.
These feelings were not helped by an ever-expanding internet and an abundance of competing web design coders, which dried up his work. However, he had a roommate to rely on for help, and during his self-imposed isolation, Williams was reborn as Boogie2988 and Francis.
Thank God for YouTube, because YouTube really did allow me to reinvent myself. But again, the depression, as well as the expanding internet, like they said, plus World of Warcraft and my desire to only play that due to my addictive personality, that's what really killed that business. There's another story that I've told on live stream, again, where I just got disgusted with the adult industry and didn't want to be part of it anymore. That's not included here, and that's okay. Maybe I'll tell that story on YouTube one day, or maybe if you check me out on Twitch, you'll find me telling that story there.
One thing led to another, and the character of Francis eventually plopped onto the primordial video platform. Of course, he wasn't an overnight success. Unless you were there for the birth of Francis, you might not know that a video in which his World of Warcraft account was hacked set him off towards stardom. The clip was intentionally overblown, and it caught the attention of another YouTuber, Ray William Johnson, who subsequently shared it. Boogie2988 Francis became famous through word of mouth.
I think, number one, I want to say, I miss 2010 YouTube, 2012 YouTube, back when anything goes and you could just hit yourself in the face with a keyboard and get that monetized. You can't really do that anymore. I also want to say big thanks to Ray William Johnson for featuring that video. It's interesting how word of mouth is both what made my career in the beginning and ended my career in the last few days. In the last few years, I should say. Especially because most of what people are saying about me is just not true, and it's so painful and frustrating.
During an interview with Kotaku, Williams revealed that Francis is based on someone he used to know, himself. He admitted, "I grew up very, very angry. Francis is very close to the person that I was for the first 20 years of my life. Even today, a large portion of who I am is very, very angry."
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, or when I'm hungry, which is pretty much the same thing. Point that I'm making is, yeah, I was a very angry person in my mid-20s and early 20s and the first 20 years of my life, honestly. That eventually turned inwards. Instead of being outwardly angry and punching walls like a lot of men do, I learned to punch myself emotionally and mentally, and I still do that to this day. But I think it's better than swinging at anybody else. So Francis is very much me making fun of internet culture, very much me making fun of myself, me very much making fun of the angry nature of gamers and, you know, kind of YouTube these days as it is.
I wanted to bring people in with Francis by being a shitty, detestable, laughable, fat stereotype of a nerd neckbeard. I wanted people to just fucking hate him.
So that was always the goal, for people to hate Francis and get angry about him and not like him, and then meet the real me and learn to like the real me. So I guess it's no wonder that there's so many people out there who think the real me is actually like Francis and that I'm actually like that person. I guess it makes sense. I just always thought the internet was smarter than that. Oops.
Their father was originally pretty laid back and kind of fun. But by the time Williams was born, the man only found solace in drinking. Eventually, these alcoholic habits, combined with smoking and the dangers of working as a coal miner, caught up to Williams' father.
And he basically drank himself into a stroke, damaging his brain. And he was gone for about 6 months for rehabilitation.
He suffered an alcoholic seizure, which rendered him semi-catatonic. He also had health conditions that made him difficult to communicate with.
You know, I didn't even really know my dad, and what I did know was definitely unpleasant and not great. At the end of the day, I do feel like justice or karma or whatever you call it is served, because the last few years of his life were absolute misery. And I know my brother got to know him fairly well and got to know him as a very kind person. I only really ever saw the traumatic side of him and the horrible stuff that he had done in the later years of his life. So it's kind of sad, but I'm glad they got this right.
According to Williams, she was miserable before her husband's death. Shortly afterwards, she broke her leg, and it refused to heal, which left her unable to work and inconsolable. After Williams had found success on YouTube, he was told that his mother was in the hospital, gravely ill. She passed away during his visit. Despite the hard feelings between them, Williams was extremely saddened by his mother's death.
Mom definitely got her dose of karma as well. I mean, she put a lot of good out in the world, but she did a lot of bad as well. And The end of her life was pretty miserable with the rampant unchecked diabetes, the morbid obesity, the injury to her legs and her feet. I mean, she was in and out of the hospital, in and out of old folks' homes, tons of surgeries, and an incredible amount of pain with a ton of painkillers until she eventually passed in 2009. People ever wonder how I learned to forgive these people? It's because, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, for every bad thing they did to us, it was revisited on them 2 times at least. Now, we're only about halfway through this video, but there's some topics in here that I do not want to cover today. The legal proceedings I'm going through, the incidents surrounding that, my divorce, things that I'm just not comfortable talking about right now. But if you like this video, if you share it, if you hit subscribe, maybe we'll make a part 2 as soon as I'm able to do so. But if you want to see the rest of what they cover, do me a favor, click on the link in the description box. I'll also put it at the top of the comment section. I think it's cool that SVG made this video, and I think it would be cool if you went and blew it up with a ton of likes and a ton of comments and had something favorable to say about me, because it seems like, you know, recently the internet has kind of beat up on me, and sometimes for good reason, but it's always nice to see something positive like this on YouTube, and I think they deserve the views. I'm curious, what do you think about this video? What do you think about me reacting to stuff like this? Would you like to see more of it? Would you like to see me react to the negative stuff? Or would you rather I just talked about video games and other stuff? Let me know in the comments section below. But until then, guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. And if you're watching this on the day it dropped, let me know if Suicide Squad is any good. I'm about to go watch it. Yay.